Hey everyone, welcome to our 10th podcast. I have the amazing, my third greatest creation, Adam Marfione. So Adam, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you, son.
Thank you.
This has been really exciting because I really wanted to, get an opportunity to talk about where you've been and everything. Everybody knows, Adam was born at the same time that the comet came through the universe and dropped his ass off. So everybody born in 1996 is extremely special, and you are. So anyway, welcome today. And we definitely want to talk about, if I could announce it, my son, you have a company called UNIVOS.
Yes.
And I'd like for you to, give us a little bit of a hint. It's been mind-boggling to listen to you, but let's share this tonight. So UNIVOS, tell me.
Great. So my company is in Austin, Texas, and it's UNIVOS Spatial Computer. And, well, we make spatial computers. And the spatial computer, I believe, is what comes after the personal computer. It is a new kind of digital computer that is going to allow people to work and manipulate information to whatever end in 3 dimensions, as opposed to 2 dimensions like with personal computers.
Yeah. That's interesting. And just tell us, Dad knows that you've been at this thing for a bit. I see, constantly working on this thing and evolving your company and everything else. But just explain just a little bit better. I mean, I anytime I talk to you, it's amazing, but it's also, like beyond my comprehension for me, because for me, it's like, I know how to make stuff. I can make, just about anything, but when it comes to computer applications and stuff like that, I know how vitally important it is. But just kind of give the audience just a little bit, how I want you to kind of explain this as if you were pitching. I get it, the whole idea of the computers and the AI and everything else that you're doing, but just give us a vision, your vision of what it would mean to me, somebody like myself who is not that really knowledgeable in computers. What would that be? You say it's beyond the, the scope of, let's say, the iPhone, which we all depend on. I couldn't imagine, it's like, when your mom and I were doing microtech at the very, very beginning, you have to understand, I mean, I'm not saying I'm like fucking as old as Moses, but, going back in the 90s, the cell phones were as big as fucking, shoe boxes and stuff like that. And even if we did have the technology at that time in the very, very late 80s and early 90s, we didn't have accessibility to information. We didn't have accessibility to go on and say, well, shit, I'm going to start a knife company today. I'm just going to go on YouTube and figure it out. There was no YouTube. There was no OnlyHands. Just kidding. Or OnlyHands. I should start one of those. No, but no, it'd be kind of funny. But no, there was no means of getting information. We had to figure out everything on our own. And I think even so, even for the technologies available to you today, maybe you could just explain again what the benefit would be. And then I want to kind of go into just, I don't want to expose the secret sauce, but, what are your biggest challenges?
Sure.
Yeah.
So personal computers are tools of convenience, but spatial computers are tools for art and creation.
I see.
Yeah.
So how would that help somebody like me or your brothers?
So we have to sort of understand, let's say, what is a spatial computer? What is its 3 primary utilities? And the obvious initial utility of the spatial computer is highly visual. So this is your virtual reality and your augmented reality. So these are your displays. And this allows us to view information in 3 dimensions in a way that you cannot do so on a personal computer, very immersively in real time. That is as if it is there and in front of you. So we then look at some of the not so obvious features or utilities of the spatial computer, and this is in the Internet of Things. So this is information in 3 dimensions, but the dimensional aspect is physical, not virtual, such as information that is in an environment, such as smart computers, smart refrigerators, smart cars, anything that can have a microchip in it that is in the physical world, that is within a physical environment. And then the last utility of the spatial computer, and I think the most important utility, will be artificial intelligence.
I see.
And we're already seeing in the world of computer science today, and in the computer industry and software in particular, obviously, is people are creating neural networks that are able to create poetry and art and architecture. They're able to create designs. They're able to engineer. And these tools are incredibly powerful. And you imagine how long it would take for someone to learn an engineering program so that they could take a design from a piece of paper and turn it into something that they could then 3D print, such as an object file or an STL file. It takes some time, it takes some practice. But suppose you were in the creative spirit, or you were in the moment, and you are walking around enjoying yourself, and you come up with something amazing. And as you are talking and as you are speaking, your very words become matter itself.
Well, that would be interesting. I'd have to be careful what the hell I say, for sure.
Absolutely. But this is...
Because I believe that words, I believe that speaking anything into existence, it could happen. I believe that energy is real. So I think you're onto something as far as that's concerned. I mean, being able to speak things, that's why speaking positively, speaking negatively is something that I've always emphasized. If you speak it, even God's will was spoken into existence when he said, create, let there be light. It came to be so.
So imagine in the context of, let's say, in the case of creating, let's say, a fixed blade. If you were to say, I want to create a fixed blade, your machine would interpret that through taking those words, parsing them, running it through these object libraries, and producing for you basic design.
So you're thinking that it's going to draw from existing information that's floating around there to come up with the most optimum designs?
Not necessarily. Now, that's how much of the current software is built. Okay, I want to give you the simplest description, and then I want you to optimize to ad infinitum. I want you to give me the best result. I don't want to put anything into it. But sometimes someone's goal isn't necessarily the most optimal goal, but perhaps someone has a more of an artistic vision or an artistic idea. Maybe something that someone would want to create may not be useful for anybody else, but safe for maybe themselves.
Sure.
And someone might want to create that, and for their own devices, or maybe for a few other people, and they may not have the understanding or the tools to create it, but they know that the idea is there, and that idea is the seed that your spatial computer would then take, and you can help. It's your tool to create, it's your tool for art, in a very, very broad sense. Yeah,
that's kind of cool. We're going to take a break from that for just a minute, but just tell me about you. Where's Adam Marfione been? It's been great, basically seeing you evolve and seeing you grow into the man that you are today. From when you were young, you were always extremely creative in everything you've done. Even, your time, small amount of time at Microtech, you were very influential on the people that you work with. You were very influential on everybody around you, so there's, that term that they've always used, Adam, the golden child, has always been extremely unique. But let's learn a little bit about you. What gets you going for the day? I know when I wake up in the morning, I have a routine that I do that, it's my routine, it's consistent. Tell me a little bit about you. Sure.
Well, I guess what gets me going throughout the day is that's a very deep philosophical question there. I don't want to be too shocking, but it's the ability to create meaning and value, and that means something, whether it be in the small things or the little things. I'd say that's sort of what kicks it all off, and then from there, it's just doing what I do, working on the spatial computer, working on myself, disciplining myself. For instance, in terms of forming myself to a discipline, I recently picked up a martial art.
Awesome.
And I really enjoy that. And for me, that is a way for myself to create meaning, but it is also a form of expression. And there's a will in that, and that's very important. Yeah.
That's cool. Tell me about the martial arts.
So I've been attending Fighting Fit Austin for 1 month now, and I really enjoy it. It's a great time.
So that's good
stuff. The people
stuff.
are great. And the coaches are really chill, and I enjoy learning the basics of jiu-jitsu and kickboxing.
That's awesome.
And I think it's a great It's a great escape, I would say, from sort of the daily activities.
That's awesome. That's
computer
good.
lab.
That's good stuff. It seems to run in our genes just a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, your brother Sean being an avid martial artist all his life, you know, Dad dabbled with it very, very early on, even though part of my mentality and part of my life still carries through on part of that, you know, whether it be fighting techniques or just life in general. You know, I try to revert back to some of that, but you know, the jiu-jitsu part of that, I really admire, you know, because like I told you before, I have many friends. And I have, you know, especially many friends in the military, you know, special groups. And I was like, hey, bro, how you do it? You know, and the guys are like, you know, nutrition, jujitsu, and freaking hot yoga. And I was like, bro, hot yoga? And they're like, yeah, hot yoga. You know, stay flexible, stay limber, stay light, you know. And like I told you before, you know, these guys are like, hey, if I can win you out, you know, if I can wind out, you know, and just, you know, outgas you, you know, we're going to scrap on the ground and I'm going to win. You know, so I like the whole theory of jujitsu. It's good. It's
yeah,
good
and I also think what's really important is that it is a lifestyle,
and that's the thing.
And by keeping
you know,
that, you know,
sure.
one keeps their body in a good physical state, or can get themselves to a good physical state, and they don't necessarily have to be the best, you know, supreme. One of, you know, there can only be one Highlander rules, right? But having yeah, right.
I get that. Yeah, Highlander, great movie. But having, original, the series sucked.
But having something as something like jiu-jitsu or any martial art as a form of physical expression, and then maintaining that, I would say, as a way of life, I think is important, and it's good mentally, it's good physically. I think it builds confidence, and I think what's important too is that it's really good for learning to interact with community and then learning how to build community, and I think that's important.
No, that's a good perspective. I like that a lot.
And I think more young people need to be involved in that. It's actually a lot of fun. It really is.
You know, I think you're 100% right, because we get so caught up into, you know, the day to day, getting sucked into social media, getting sucked into everywhere else. I think that interaction is a good thing. You know, I remember what little interaction I had when I was younger, you know, of, you know, attending a school. It was difficult. It was tough. But, you know, the family that I had, or the family atmosphere that I had amongst my peers and amongst my, you know, my teachers and people above me, people below me, it was a really, really good building experience. It helped build some foundations for me. You know, especially, you know, not growing up in the great family conditions. I think it was something that really helped me early on, kept me out of trouble and everything else. So I think you're 100% right. I think that whole building block, I think, is a good foundation for a lot of people. But that, you know, that whole mind, body, and spirit thing is something that you got to do. You know, for the years that I put into microtech, I didn't always take care of myself 100%, even though, you know, being that, you know, forefront or that spearhead of a family, I think just making sure that I was, you know, finally get to a point where I was like, hey man, if I want to be the spearhead and take care of everybody around me, I got to take care of myself first. So I commend you for doing that. A lot of people get caught up in their visions and their dreams, and they put themselves last, even though they don't
take care of themselves.
You got to, they got to, because if you have a vision and you have everybody around you, you know, it's like me, when I go into microtech, if I'm not good for the day, that sets the pace, and everybody could attest, it'll set the pace of the entire fucking shop.
Yeah.
So, you know, there are some days when I am like that, where I probably should avoid coming in, because it seems like, you know, I always joke around and say, you know, the crews have done better when I'm not around. Hey man, you know, they can get this done. We you know, we've instilled, I trust but verify, you know, but from that business standpoint, you know, I've learned a lot over the last 28 years of employing people, and hopefully, you know, some of that has taught you, because you're going to have, you know, employees someday. I even talked to your brother, Tony, you know, he's like, Dad, you're right. Dad, you're right. Dad, you're right. It's like, yeah, I know you're right. It's not a matter of Dad being right. It's just a matter of, you know, some fucking real basic common sense.
It's a lot of wisdom for sure.
It's a lot of wisdom, you know, and there's no, you know, there's no rule book of life, you know, maybe with the exception of the greatest book ever written, which is the Bible. But, you know, there's no rule book. There's no rule book on how to raise kids. There's no rule book on how to run a business effectively. You know, it's come by, you know, a lot of it's been Kentucky windage and learning and making mistakes, but not making the same one twice, or at least trying not to. But, you know, so we're interested to see, you know, what you develop. If you were to tell everybody here, you know, when could they, I know it's my crystal ball stopped working a few years ago because the batteries don't work that great. But
Try solar powered.
solar powered crystal ball. What the fuck? I should have thought of it. I need that.
Just,
But no, what I was going to say is, when could everybody expect to see something? I know that you're so close on what you're working on, but if you were to say, hey, people, expect to see this when?
Sure.
You got to have a vision. You can't, like Dad told you before, you can't develop this thing for the rest of your fucking life. You're going to have to put your pencil down. You're going to have to deliver us something soon. Or something within your time.
Yeah. So
something within my lifetime.
So I've already developed it.
Okay.
I do have a working prototype of my machine, of the spatial computer. It's crude, it's simple, but it gets the point across of the first basic utility. And I think this is very, very important, as this is where a lot of the much larger competition in the tech space is focused on right now, as it is obvious with this new technology that is going to be where it's going to go for the next couple of years. But these companies have not done very well on that. I know why that's the case, and not just from a hardware.
And you shouldn't. Don't disclose what they're doing wrong.
But I also know that these companies are not focusing on their atomic network. They're not focusing on the core community and what the community truly really wants. And if you want to know what they want, so you just need to go to YouTube and Reddit and Discord, and there they go. The customers will tell you what they want. And I built a prototype that exemplifies that in a very basic form. So I have my prototype, painstakingly got it. The basic technology is pretty cool. Yeah. And some of the experiences that I've been able to have through my experiments have sort of changed my perspective on some things about reality and space and time and that sort of stuff, is because I've been able to see things in a way that has just been different. And that's important. Like you see information from your smartphone. You're like, oh, that's cool. You see it on a YouTube short and you scroll down and you go to the next thing. Maybe you open up a textbook and you read something profound. You're like, oh, that's very interesting. That's a neat phrase. But when you can experience something as if it's actually there and be intimate with it, I think that's an experience that will fundamentally shift your perspective on a very specific thing, or on a range of things. Sure. So I have a prototype. I also have a Delaware C Corp. That's what UNIVOS Spatial Computer is. So I'm in a position, my company right now is in a position to actually go and raise venture capital. And I have a pitch deck that I've also painstakingly gone through many iterations on, and asked people to look at, review, and give their opinions on. I have a model of what the first product is going to look like. And I also have a manufacturer lined up for most of our stuff that we're going to be making. Right. There's still a lot more that I need to do, and there's plenty of room for people to be involved with the spatial computer. I'm going to need more help, as great companies and great vision are not usually executed by one person alone, but usually by armies of dedicated people.
And that's Dad's always tried to share that with you. The secret to our success, even though it was originally your mother and I's vision with Microtech, it's just because we've been able to determine and the value of the people around us. I mean, for me at least, there's always been that risk of bringing a particular person on. I remember when you approached me and said, hey, look, I got this one engineer. He's not doing 100%. And, I hope that the advice that I gave you remedied that, and even your brother as of late, he's like, hey, Dad, last show we went to, we were in Nashville. He's like, I'm going to fire everybody. I don't know if he ended up doing that, but I get it. I've had those times. Yeah. And I hope that you see that, the reason for our success is we've been able to surround ourselves with great people. Yeah. You do sometimes have to find that diamond in the rough, which takes some risk. If everybody walked in the door and they had to have a fucking associate's degree or bachelor's degree, I get that and I respect that. Yeah. But some of the greater people that have been involved in our organization have come from other trades. Look at me. I mean, I'm no attest and I'm not the most brilliant guy in the world, but the thing about it is, could I have used a little bit more education? Likely. But my education has been every day of my life. and if you want it and you want to live it and breathe it and everything else, you could succeed at just about anything you set your mind to. But yes, you are going to have to surround yourself with the right individuals. And I hope that you have the determination, or at least the ability, to sort that out.
I do, but that also requires capital as well. And that's what
and when it comes time, all of us, including myself, want to invest in this vision. Yeah. But again, like I told you before, it's going to be a matter of how you pitch it. I get it from, the customer standpoint. We want to know what it's going to do. I'm going to spend my money. What is it going to do for me?
Yeah.
As far as a perspective for investors, they're going to say, okay, we love your pitch, but how are we going to make money? How are we going to get our return? How are we going to make this thing long term?
Sure.
And that's what Dad taught you, to say, hey, look at this is how you need to approach this, because you can bedazzle them all fucking day long. But if I don't know how I'm going to get my return on my investment, they don't care.
Yeah, it's all in the product plan.
It's all in the product plan. Yeah. So that's why I suggested, maybe approaching it so that you can explain these on a couple different levels. But no, it's super, super excited stuff to watch you develop this over the course of time. And, but yeah, I mean, getting back to the brass tacks, yes, you do the martial arts, you do that. Tell me what you're drinking today.
A bourbon. It's very nice. Yeah. Takes the edge off a bit.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah. So you got a Kelmet 16 year. It's a good one. Managed to get this from a buddy of mine, Joey Conley, who anytime I see him, he always just knows what to bring me. Yeah. So a lot of the guys that we deal with that are collectors and associates over the course of time either put us in front of these type of bourbons or are collectors themselves, and they know. It's like, hey, Tony, what do you think of this one? It's just like, hey, man, how does it taste? I don't care the vintage, or I don't care whatever. If it appeals to me, it appeals. So cheers to that. I'm drinking wine tonight. Of course, came as Select.
Cheers.
Cheers, buddy. Yeah, I appreciate it. We're going to want to have you back because I want to hear the progress of what you're doing.
Absolutely. And this upcoming year, I'm really excited about, because UNIVOS Spatial Computer is in a position to begin raising capital.
Okay.
I have everything I need. I have my product prototype. I have my pitch deck, and we'll soon have a demo video to sort of give a little bit more personal information about myself, as this was a requirement for some of the venture capital companies that I'll be looking at. But I have my web domain, univos.com. It's just our logo and our name right now, as we're still in stealth mode. But I have my trademarks too. Yeah. So I have pretty much everything that I'm going to need to go and pitch to 100 investors, and hopefully one of them might hit. Okay. And that'll be great. And sooner the better, obviously, but the goal is next year to hopefully raise a seed or pre-seed round. So probably anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million. And if we can get that, we can get our key players on board, and then we'll roll into, it's probably going to be a pre-seed, and I'd say it's the most realistic, but that will get our core top engineers in place. 'Cause these people are expensive. I mean, these guys aren't going to help me for free.
You telling Dad about expensive employees?
Oh no, I know you know. I know you know very well.
We have a couple really good ones, and again, we have some of the best ones in the industry as far as plastics and metallurgy is concerned. But our guys are great. I mean, we got some really good ones, and that's what I've learned over the course of some time. And any advice I can give to you is going to be two things for you to succeed: become closer with your customers, be totally dialed in to your consumer.
That's the atomic network.
Yeah, I have learned that. You think about it. Yeah. Microtech, even though it's just a knife company, and we've done a host of different things. What we've learned over the course of some time. Think of 27 years, or let's say probably a few years over that. How many different administrations we've been through, how many different economies we've been through over the years. Yes, we've grew up and exploded over the years and had had our ups and downs. But, of course, I don't want to get into politics. Of course, our political climate right now and our economies and everything right now are extremely, makes me nerve-wracking.
It is dangerous, but look at, I think people are looking for a third way.
Well, what we found out is just becoming closer to our consumer in a huge way makes a huge difference. Yeah. Every little bit, just like people the last show that I went to, I get it. A lot of guys are like, you're just going to Italy to have fun. Well, yeah, I am. Okay.
Have fun with your customers.
I'm going to have
Hang out with
fun.
them.
But, when I show up at these smaller venues, I show up at these events, I get people that are strategically coming in from every different area of the world.
Yeah.
I get not only from the Asian sector, I get them from, every area of Europe. I get a different perspective on what I should be doing, and it's invaluable. Even if I'm just breaking a drink with these people, it doesn't matter because I'm listening, I'm taking it in. And by listening to the consumers and listening to what they have to say and taking it in and not being arrogant, not blowing them off, has given me a better perspective on how I can maneuver microtech through this economy globally.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are thinking just in their little box. I love selling to the USA market where we kill it, but there's a much bigger global market. And you have to pay tune to that. So I'm going to say for you, same thing. Be close to your customers forever. No matter how big you get, don't forget where you came from. Don't forget the cloth you were cut from. Go to these smaller events, shake hands, kiss babies, do what you got to do, sign autographs, do whatever. And the little kid comes up and says, Adam Marfione, shine on my shirt. You sign that kid's shirt and you do it with glee. So that's the first thing. The second thing I'm going to tell you is become closer with your employees. Your core is the people who work for you. That is, without them, when you create these mega factories and everything else, who's going to run them? Granted, I can go back to making knives in my garage. I get it. But is that where I really want to be? Running my company behind a grinding wheel? I'm not going to do it. The success of microtech is based on the people we've been able to organize to this point. Yeah. And I'll say it again. I know she's going to get a big head, but Melinda has done an unbelievable job. Like I've told your brother, he's like, Dad, who should I hire? I said, you should hire somebody like Melinda Gennaro to run your to get in. And not having the proper HR department has probably been one of our biggest downfalls over the years. That's extremely key. Because I run my company way too emotionally to be strictly too involved with my employees. You got to have that conduit, that separates and, separates us. At this point, I haven't always had people within the organization that I've loved to work with. I mutually respect people and we get along, but they don't need to be my friends. But I have some people that I coordinate with a little bit on a more closer level. I make it personal. Now when I come into the shop, it's great. Everybody gets excited. They think fucking Santa Claus just showed up, and that's how I want to keep it. Yeah. I love them and I give them compliments. I should be the one in patting them on the back and telling them they're a good job and say, hey, correct this here, correct this there, instead of fucking throwing hammers through the wall like I used to. So just bear that in mind. If you have employees that are making you get sick to your stomach or they're not doing the right thing, you could simply remedy that. I mean, nobody's forced to work at your plant, but I'm going to tell you, okay, I get it. You want to get engineers? Yeah, you get your engineers, but you better. Son, listen to me. Your first new hire better be the best HR person in freaking Austin, Texas. Listen to me when it comes to that. You'll never regret it. Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's key. That's super key. But other than that, I don't know. What else do you have? What else do you do for fun? You do anything for fun? You got to do something for fun.
I do.
Can't be like fucking Mr. Roboto all the time,
Most of the time, Mr. Roboto.
I get it.
Well,
Mr. Roboto.
My newfound fun activity is, I'd say, kickboxing and jiu-jitsu, and I really enjoy that. When I can, I do like to go skydiving. I think that's a great time. Everyone should do it at least once. Yeah.
Well, we look forward to going.
And I've only done it once, but a friend in Austin called me out one Saturday evening. It was like, hey, come rappel off a cliff with me. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. And I did. It's a great time. Never been over a cliff before. That was quite the adrenaline rush. And anyone that wants to get over fears of anything, go do that.
I hear you. There's a lot of things, unfortunately, I signed an agreement with our insurance companies and stuff for my estate that I can't do certain things because if I die, I'm going to have to forfeit, insurance. But, like swimming with the sharks, which I've always wanted to do.
Well, that's great because soon you'll be able to buy a spatial computer and you'll be able to do all that stuff.
But you know what? Yeah, I get that, but I'm not going to be stuck like sitting on the couch eating potatoes, watching my spatial computer. Will I use it to continue to take over this industry? My thing is absolutely, what I'm hoping to do, what I'm hoping your device will do for me was help me continue to dominate an industry that I'm going to dominate one way or another, whether it's me today or you tomorrow or the grandchildren after that fact.
Yeah.
That's my expectation.
Yeah.
For me sitting on a couch, visually swimming with sharks ain't going to happen. I'm going to go do that. I'm going to swim in the Great Barrier Reef. That's my thing going forward. I'm going to have these
agree.
experiences personally. Even if we're not going to talk about, I promised to the insurance companies I won't go skydiving.
But I would say being able to have certain experiences before actually living them in real life is actually a pretty profound thing.
For some people, that's where Dad's going to disagree. I'm going to tell you that.
Let me give you an example of this. So I like YouTube Shorts. They're kind of cool. They're really cool. Anyways, I saw this one of a guy who had an intense fear of heights, and he was using a VR display in order to simulate himself walking, or in his case, crawling on a beam, essentially above a city on a skyscraper.
Oh, that's kind of scary.
Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, the more you become accustomed to something, the less afraid you become of it, the more familiar that it is. And this principle alone, I think, is radically profound. And I don't think no time in the history of our species have we been able to ever really simulate this with such intensity before. And that's only the obvious, immediate operations of this technology. Like, that's the beginning. And if that's where it starts, where does something like this go?
I know, but I'm going to play the devil's advocate for just 2 seconds here.
Sure.
But it seems like everybody is face down into their phones as it is, and we're trapped to that monster. Don't you think that ability for us to get that dopamine and get that adrenaline rush from this device is going to just capture us and even further separate us from that personal experience that we can have? If I had to ask you, Adam, because there's a good and a flip side to everything, just like the internet. There's a beautiful means to gather information and great experiences, but equally there's some shit on there that if you want to dig that fucking rabbit hole, man, it goes as deep as hell. And that.
Of course it does. And people have the choice to do that if they were going to dig themselves a hole. But look at it this way. I think that spatial computer technology has an opportunity as a tool for art. And I use art in a very, very, very broad, and probably in the broadest way possible, as a tool for art to create meaning and experience. And I think this is profoundly important, because the purpose of art is to create meaning, is to invoke meaning, even to those who can't create it but only observe it. And the spatial computer, in the first of its, in my opinion, its three utilities. The first obvious utility is visual, and this visual is best served in the artistic sphere. And I think that's what makes UNIVOS Spatial Computer very unique, is that, yes, there are other companies in the world that want you to go live on their platform forever. They want you to live there. They want you to work there. They want you to buy your shit from there. They want to nickel and dime you for the rest of your life. I'm not building a product for people to live on, but if people want to, they can. That's their choice. Now, we've seen the ramifications of corporations making decisions on behalf of their customers. And look what that's doing to our world, especially with a technology as powerful as the epitome of personal computers, the smartphone.
Sure. Yep.
You take this into the spatial computer space with a virgin technology that is just in its infancy, that is going to spread around the world. It will happen. We're going to see it, whether it's Univos that does it, or whether it's Meta, or whether it's Apple, or whether it's HTC Vive, Valve, or the myriad of Asian corporations. It's going to happen.
It's going to happen. I get that.
But I think what Univos aims to be is a company that wants to show people something really profound. Our goal with the spatial computer is not an end goal. It's not an end goal product. The point of the spatial computer is to change people's perspectives, to orient your perspective so that you can see something else. And that is the means to create meaning in a world that is rather meaningless.
That's good. I appreciate that.
And maybe that's probably, I don't know if that's the best way to describe that now, as I'm still working that vision and that philosophy of our product. But that is the point, at least as I see it, of the spatial computer, from the virtual reality and the augmented reality part. And I believe that technologies in the Internet of Things space and in the machine learning space are going to amplify that. And I think, yes, this technology can be used to wicked ends. And you know what? To those who are going to do it, are only going to imprison themselves. And that's their choice. If they're going to do that, they're going to do it. We're not going to promote it on our spatial computer, but people are going to find their ways and means, and that's for them. You know, that's what they're going to do. If you're going to drink in your parents' house, be it in your parents' house and not in some strange neighborhood. But
Roger that.
So buy our spatial computer.
All right.
But I think the less obvious aspects of the machine, the stuff that will come, okay, like the Internet of Things and the machine learning, is going to radically multiply the effect of the visual aspect of these machines, and is going to allow people to do some amazing things that I can't really speak of yet, because I don't know if I have words yet to describe them, because we're talking about technology that is going to cause an explosion of intelligence. I could use it because daddy's a little stupid these days. An explosion of intelligence, an explosion of culture, an explosion of art, and this just doesn't reach a limit. It goes on ad infinitum. Like this is it. This is the next space of where computer technology goes. It's the next kind of digital computer.
Well, cool.
And there's corporations that are positioning themselves to try and capitalize on this, and I don't think they're doing it the right way. It might break some big companies, and I think some other corporations might make some money on it, and I think we'll make money on it too. But I also think there is a responsibility understanding the power of this technology, even in its beginning, and I think we have a philosophy for that.
Well, cool. Well, we look forward to seeing what you got to do. I was going to go on to, I always introduce kind of a gun out of the collection just because it's fun and it's part of our DNA. But I will show you. Oh, God, it's a heavy one. So hold on a minute. Today on Adam's podcast, we have a fully transferable Marymount M60 reconfigured in an M60E6 from our friends at Desert Ordnance. Robert Wesley, I love you, bro. Love you. And it's topped off with an Elcan Spectre. It's a wonderful gun, aka Miss Piggy. Check it out.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah. Very rare bird. That one is absolutely brand new, unfired. Beautiful piece. I know you've always enjoyed shooting the guns and everything else, but that's one of Dad's go-tos right there. It's
an amazing piece.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, and we bring in a firearm for this, because in Ivan Sutherland's paper talking about displays and computers, it's 1969. It's only like a page and a half long. Mm-hmm. But at the very end of the paper, he actually describes a concept called the ultimate display. And this was powered by a very special kind of computer. He didn't quite name what the computer was, but in his words, he described that the ultimate display would be something in which the computer would control the very matter in the environment, such that the firearm in the environment would be as if it were in real life, and the bullet within the environment would have similar consequences, but they would all be controlled by the machine. What Ivan Sutherland, what Ivan Sutherland was talking about, the ultimate display is the end goal, at least in his mind, the computer, and the computer that runs that ultimate display is the spatial computer. Whether he knew that or not, that was his prediction. It's the ultimate display. It's cool. It's the goal of the space. It's the ultimate end goal of at least computer hardware.
Well, cool. Well, Adam, thank you so much. And Dad always is very extremely happy and excited to work with you and talk to you about these things. So again, thank you for coming on the podcast. Yeah. We look forward to seeing what you got. And Dad, always very, very interested, and even though it's beyond my comprehension, is looking forward to seeing the advancement of whatever you do. So cheers to that. Cheers to Univos and all your hard work. You carry that gene, and God bless you. Thank you.
I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be on the podcast for my first podcast. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about Univos. There will be plenty more for,
Absolutely. So everyone,
25 years.
Yeah, absolutely. We're definitely going to get Adam back on here as he progresses with his, his programs. And again, super excited, super proud of you as a son. Dad couldn't be.
I'm grateful. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Chin chin.